All right, my friends, this is a good one. Something came up on my news feed or wherever I go to find geeky stuff. I'm assuming you're familiar with Baldur's Gate 3, right? This is a new upcoming video game. I think yesterday, Baldur's Gate 3 had an early release on Steam. What I want to do is I want to talk about something that I found was brought up on another D&D forum, and this is really, really cool. So real quick, some background. We have it up here on Wikipedia. Baldur's Gate 3 is an upcoming role-playing video game being developed and published by Larian Studios. So the Baldur's Gate series is iconic in the D&D and fantasy role-playing space. I had to let out my inner ogre. I apologize. 1 second. So here's the cool part. I died there for a moment. The Baldur's Gate series is iconic, and it has been quite a while since we've had a new Baldur's Gate game. I don't know how long, but it feels like a decade or something like that. It's been a long time. So Baldur's Gate 3 is currently in development. Early access was released yesterday, so you can get in there and delve into it and play it, which means they are, in fact, working on it, and it's working, right? The best part, though, is besides Baldur's Gate and the icon that is in the tabletop role-playing space, I mean, Baldur's Gate 2 Shadows of Am is considered one of the greatest video games ever made, let alone in the fantasy D&D-ish RPG space. Baldur's Gate 3 is going to be using the D&D tabletop role-playing system, but most importantly, the confidence we have of this game being developed and being really good is it's being developed and published by Larian Studios. Let me give you another little bit of background, things that I understand quite well going through game design school and the inner workings of the gaming industry. Just because a game is developed by someone, what has happened oftentimes with Blizzard as of late, the publisher oftentimes are the folks that are pushing it, marketing it. Get this version out for E3. Get this version out quickly. We need something out there, right? The stakeholders, those that have the money. They can oftentimes be at odds with the developers because the developers will be, we need more time. But the publisher says, it doesn't matter, release it. So you're going to get a buggy game, this and that and the other thing, right? That's why CD Projekt is always such a big deal, because they can kind of do their own thing. They have full autonomy, I think. In this particular case, it's being developed and published by Larian Studios. Larian Studios recently released a game called Divinity Original Sin 2. That is, right now as it stands, one of the best RPGs ever made. So if they can put the fit and finish and polish on this Baldur's Gate 3 as they did with Divinity Original Sin 2, we're looking for something really big here, right? Something huge that's coming out. All of that, 3 minutes, has nothing to do with what I'm talking about in the video, but I'm just excited. I want to show you this, okay? Ranger is a class in BG3. Their primary ability is dexterity, right? Sounds very similar because you're using range combat as you would in 5th edition. Their saving throw proficiency is dex and int. I'm not going to pull up D&D Beyond and look at the ranger class. I'm not going to pull up the as it stands player's handbook version of the ranger to compare and contrast, because I'm assuming you have some familiarity, but you can do your own homework and compare this with what's on your shelf in the book, okay? They have a hit dice of D8. I think that's exact. They have proficiency with simple weapons, martial weapons, shields, medium armor, and light armor. We know what that means, right? Here we go. Here's their class features. Remember, we are looking at the ranger when you choose this as one of your classes. And I think the fact that someone was talking about this on a message board of what they saw in the early access, early access, remember folks, even though it came out yesterday, it means the game isn't finished yet. But I love when companies do that because it's kind of like not being afraid to hold on to your baby. I always say this in world building. Let me digress a little bit in storytelling. Don't just hold on to your cool D&D idea because you're afraid someone's going to take it. Newsflash. Someone already has done your idea. There is no original idea in the world. Let it out there. Let people muck about with it, mess it all up, break it, so that you can further edit it and polish it. So the early access is not a finished version, but I think the Ranger is playable in this early access version, which I think it's free. I don't think you have to pre-order the game or anything. Go on Steam and just download it. Check it out, okay? I oftentimes haven't been wanting to do that lately because I used to be kind of having a little bit of an inside leg into the door of the gaming industry in the last 25 years. I've always been given alpha and beta access from many companies for a lot of games, but I feel like it ruined my energy and excitement when the game actually released. I felt like I had already been there and done that. So I don't know if I'm going to look at this early access, but this is really cool. Here's the class features of the Ranger. Strength saving throw proficiency, add your proficiency bonus to strength saving. We already know what that is. Dex saving throw proficiency, we know what that is. We know what light armor proficiency, where light armor will not impose disadvantage on your attacks or prevent casting of spells. Medium armor does the same thing. These are the basic class features as mentioned right up here, okay? Shield, wearing a shield will not impose disadvantage, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if that's a thing with the actual Player's Handbook Ranger, because you're typically thinking about like a two-handed longbow, right? But anyway, they can have a shield, and then they have simple and martial. Check this out. Favorite enemy. When you create a Ranger, you must choose one of the following favorite enemies. This allows the Ranger to gain certain proficiency or learn a new spell. When you create a Ranger, choose one of the following. You're a bounty hunter. Gain proficiency in investigation and learn the Thieves' Cant passive. Creatures you restrain have a harder time escaping. Obviously, you need to determine how that comes about through gameplay mechanics, right? Does it mean that they get disadvantage on their opposed grapple once you grapple? You know, whatever, right? When you restrain them through traps or otherwise. But from what I'm reading, again, not comparing, contrasting, and pulling up D&D Beyond, from the parts I remember of the Player's Handbook Ranger, I don't remember seeing things on gaining proficiency in investigation and getting Thieves' Cant. But as a bounty hunter, I love the feel and the vibe of that, because it feels like with especially the learning Thieves' Cant, you kind of get into the underworld, like you're really truly hunting. You know, that's really neat. Remember, you choose one of these following favorite enemies. I'm assuming the way that's worded is you're kind of choosing almost like humanoids or humans as favorite enemy type of thing. But again, this is the video game version of it. You'd have to kind of wrangle through. I think the point here is more talking through the spark of ideas of ways you might want to manipulate some things and change the Ranger class as written. Keeper of the Veil, gain proficiency in Arcana and you now can cast Protection from Evil and Good. Magebreaker, gain proficiency with Arcana and the True Strike cantrip. Wisdom is your spellcasting ability for this spell. I think they're Wisdom spellcasters anyway. Ranger Knight, gain proficiency with History and Heavy Armor. Heavy Armor, that's a huge deal, choosing the Ranger Knight. Sanctified Stalker, gain proficiency in Religion, and you get the Sacred Flame cantrip. Wisdom is your spell. That's neat, okay? These feel very different, you know, versus just the default. I kind of want to go to D&D Beyond, the default kind of favorite enemy thing. Like, these feel like a very different, Ranger. And I'm not talking about subclasses of Gloomstalker and whatever, but no, now you're choosing, when you create a Ranger, am I a bounty hunter? Am I a Keeper of the Veil? Kind of very anti-Arcana stuff. Magebreaker's kind of the same. Am I a Ranger Knight, where I'm a little more stout? History and looking back to the origins of the Ranger, wearing heavy armor? Or am I a very, sort of religious, zealot or against those factions or whatever? That's really neat. Okay, Natural Explorer. When you create a Ranger, you must choose one of the following types of Natural Explorer. This allows the Ranger to increase the amount of skills at his or her disposal. If you choose Beast Tamer, you can cast Find Familiar as a ritual. Cool. If you choose Urban Tracker, you gain proficiency with the Disguise Kits and Thieves' Tools. Neat. If you choose Waste Wanderer Cold, let's click on it. You have spent days surviving desolate tundras. Gain resistance to cold damage, taking only half damage from it. One of the 5 Natural Explorer features available at Ranger level 1. Okay? So, gain resistance to cold, taking only half damage from it. Wasteland Wanderer Fire. You have spent endless days surviving forbidden deserts. You gain resistance to fire, only taking half damage from it. And the last one is Poison. You have spent endless days surviving fetid swamps. Gain resistance to poison, taking only half damage from it. That's really cool. Ranger Progression. Note that a D10 is rolled and the number you roll plus your con modifier added to your total every level up. That's a little bit weird because we're looking at... They have a hit dice of D8. So I don't know the accuracy or whatever of that, but no big deal. Rangers will pick... Well, that's a big deal, but beyond the scope of this video. Rangers will pick a subclass at level 3. You obviously gain the benefits of that subclass. So I think that's about it. You've got your basic features, which are what's there already, but it's this favorite enemy and Natural Explorer thing that really shines because it's different. There's a lot of difference here. Again, that Bounty Hunter, Keeper of the Veil, Magebreaker, Ranger Knight, Sanctified Stalker. Choose one of those when you pick your Ranger. So this is the cool stuff that you get just by being Ranger. You're going to get all the other cool stuff when you pick Gloomstalker or whatever your subclass is, right? But I think the problem hasn't necessarily been with the subclasses. People's point of contention with the Player's Handbook Ranger is the base default of Favorite Enemy and Natural Explorer didn't feel really neat and epic. I mean, choosing between resistance to poison, fire, or cold. Now imagine if your race is like Draconic Bloodline. Is it? No, or let's say Tiefling. Automatically resist fire. And then you've naturally explored the fetid swamp. So you have resist fire and resist poison. That's pretty damn cool by just picking a default level 1 ability, right? Casting Find Familiar as a ritual. And then all of these things. Remember, you get to pick both you're choosing. So you might be a Ranger Knight, proficiency with history, wear heavy armor, fetid stalker, so you're resistant to poison, and you're a tiefling, so you're resistant to fire. That's a lot at level 1. So pretty neat. That's my long ramble. Check out Baldur's Gate 3. And I want to see where they go with this, since it's really high-level developer, like I said in the very beginning of the video, with Larian Studios. But most importantly, they know their strengths, and they're going to respect the source material, which is 5e D&D. But I love that they're approaching it from a video game perspective, which might give us some new fuel for inspiration as to some homebrew stuff, right? Some house rules that we might want to manipulate with the actual game itself. So I just wanted to talk about the Ranger. Let's see what else comes out there. Let's see what else is in the early access and what other classes have been messed with. And when the game actually releases, let's see what other goodness they change about D&D. That's all I have for you folks. Thanks everyone. Take care.